Hello, football fans. Welcome back to Goalside. Footballers at the top level are often known for their luxury lifestyle that sees them spending an obscene amount of money on the most unnecessary things possible. But even in this category, some names stand out in their unique lifestyle provided by some big money moves. We'll take a look at the most extreme cases and their stories. Mario Balotelli. Everyone saw his name coming from a mile away after reading the title. Super Mario is a synonym for a talented youngster derailing his career due to late and slow maturing processes. However, while he left a lot to be desired on the pitch, Balotelli provides us with a lot of laughs over the years with his antics off of it. One of the craziest stories comes from his time at Manchester City. The striker had his fair share of output for the team, scoring just enough to keep himself in the contention for the starting 11 constantly. Manchester City were about to face their bitter city rivals and the main title challengers, Manchester United. It was the evening before the match. Balotelli was a little bored at home, so he set off some fireworks. His bathroom caught fire and started to burn, raising all sorts of alarm bells. The firemen arrived at the scene quickly and managed to de-escalate the situation without anyone getting hurt. This was the official statement by the fire station. 4 breathing apparatus and 2 hose reel water jets were used to deal with the fire, and a large fan was used to clear the smoke from the property. Crews managed to put out the fire within half an hour of arriving, but remained at the scene until 2:45 a.m. to prevent any possible flare-ups. Smoke alarms were fitted at the property, and the occupiers were able to get out unharmed. The fire was caused by a firework. Well, it was some spectacular fireworks at the very least. As if the story wasn't incredible enough, Mario added a twist to it the next day. Playing against United, the Italian scored 2 goals in a spectacular team performance that saw the citizens win 6-1. After his first goal of the match, Balotelli uncovered a shirt saying, "Why always me?" He completed a pinnacle of Balotelli's both best and the worst within 24 hours. Another example of Balotelli's different way of thinking was when a police patrol stopped him once. They found €5,000 just sitting in his back pocket. So when the officer asked him why he would carry that much money in his pants, he simply replied, "Because I am rich." Other incidents involved throwing darts at youth Manchester City players, as well as showing incredible acts of generosity like the one time he just started handing out stacks of money to the homeless people on the streets. It's safe to say that Balotelli is a character, to say the least. George Best, an author of the most legendary quote in football, had to be on our list. He was a Manchester United legend with 137 goals for the club, all of them coming with style and elegance that only few footballers ever possessed. Best was a journeyman at his best, considering he's played for 18 different clubs in his professional career, but if there's one thing that he loved more than football, it was wasting away his money. Best was famous for being a womanizer as well as a gambler, all of which aligned perfectly with his drinking habit, causing him to become one of football's first superstars in every meaning of the word. Just like he was able to produce magic on the pitch, he was just as charismatic off of it. On one occasion, when asked about where his footballing money went, he famously replied, "I spent 90% of my money on women, drink, and fast cars. The rest, I wasted." This was followed up by another legendary quote, perfectly embodying everything that Best represented. "In 1969, I gave up women and alcohol. It was the worst 20 minutes of my life." Best's drinking took a toll on him, and he was even imprisoned once for 12 days due to driving under the influence, causing him to spend Christmas 1984 in jail. George Best was very influential in creating an image for himself. GQ even put him in the 50 most stylish players of the last 50 years back in 2007. However, Best's alcohol problems eventually caught up with him, and he prematurely died in 2005 after years and years of fighting severe alcoholism and living an extremely unhealthy lifestyle throughout his life. Obafemi Martins. Premier League had its fair share of entertainers on the pitch, players who impressed with their dribbles and provided pure fun when watching them play football. However, Obafemi Martins was a spectacle like no other with his glittering pace and quick feet, allowing him to dribble the best of them and provide a spark for his team week in and week out. He produced chaos in the opposition defenses no matter who was on the other side. But there was just one problem. He produced chaos in his own life too. Martins allegedly spent all of his weekly wages by cashing it out and splashing the money on luxury cars, villas, basically making even his wildest imaginations come true, no matter the cost. This caused him to lose a ton of money before an outside company offered to take care of his accounting for a one-time fee of €300,000. Obafemi knew this was serious, so he accepted the offer. However, once he had to pay, he simply didn't have the $300,000 because he'd spent all of his money as soon as the club paid his salary. Coincidentally, though, he would go on to marry Mario Balotelli's sister, and now he's living a steady life while looking for a new club after his China experience. Diego Maradona. Diego Armando Maradona is one of the best, if not the single best player of all time. He scored everywhere and did it in style too, by dribbling all over his opponents, dropping jaws of the spectators, and putting on a show. However, what made Maradona so great weren't just his dribbles and skills, but his Argentinian passion that surfaced so often when talking about El Pibe del Oro. Maradona embodied everything that Argentina represented. He was loudmouthed, always the strongest in the room, ready to rebel against injustice, and he wore his emotions on his sleeve. This caused him to live a pretty hectic lifestyle because when he wasn't winning the World Cup with Argentina or Serie A with Napoli, you bet that he wasn't exactly spending his time in the theater or playing chess. Maradona was a well-known womanizer and alcoholic, but that actually wasn't what separated him from most professional footballers back in the day. What separated him was his love for drugs. Cocaine, to be specific. Maradona started using drugs at the beginning of his European adventure as early as in Barcelona back in 1983. The addiction never stopped to this day. However, his lowest moment arrived in the World Cup 1994, where he was banned by FIFA for using cocaine. They drastically banned him for 15 months, thus infamously ending his international career. They have retired me from football. I don't think I want another revenge. My soul is broken. Maradona had some sad moments in the most recent World Cup. He visited Russia to support his home country, Argentina, but it was too obvious that he went too far with the drugs. So the scenes at the stadium were all but pleasant, with Maradona behaving like a typical junkie, with hundreds of cameras pointed in his face. Paul Gascoigne. Often touted as the most talented Englishman ever, Paul Gascoigne was unmatched with the ball. He did things that other players could only dream of on a regular basis and made the impossible look easy and simple with his talent and born skill with the ball. But it wasn't all that beautiful outside of the pitch. Very, very far from beautiful. Just like Diego Maradona, Gascoigne also developed a cocaine addiction. There were stories about the English genius spending a whopping $2,000 a day on cocaine alone. Gascoigne was living an unsustainable lifestyle throughout his career too. He was a regular at the pubs where he drank alcohol all night, which also later caught up with him. Gascoigne's career high came in 1998 when he infamously drank 32 shots of whiskey in just one night, leading him into a coma. His manager at the time, Brian Robson, finally decided that enough was enough. Acting as a true friend, Robson signed Gascoigne to the recovery clinic. However, the player himself didn't like the idea, and after just a couple of weeks, Gazza couldn't take it anymore. He left the clinic despite the treatment being unfinished. In 2008, it was discovered that Gazza owed $300,000 to the country for unpaid taxes in the previous 2 years, and the case remained unresolved to this day. Stories about Gascoigne's drinking problems are almost endless. All of this led him into developing some very serious mental illnesses, as he suffered from a bipolar disorder, amongst other things. His agent wept for him in 2013 when he talked to BBC Radio. He won't thank me for saying it, but he immediately needs to get help. His life is always in danger because he is an alcoholic. Maybe no one can save him. I don't know. I really don't know. Gazza is recovering from his addictions nowadays, but his story remains a warning signal for all young and rich athletes out there. Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, here's a refresher on the list. Unlike the previous superstars that made this one, Ronaldo never had any sort of alcohol, let alone drug issues in his career. The Portuguese is the perfect role model when it comes to taking care of himself and his body. However, Cristiano goes to the extreme sometimes when spending his wealth. It's no wonder, given that he's in the top 5 most paid athletes on the planet, earning dozens of millions every year with his lucrative sponsorship and club deals. Ronaldo was recently caught wearing the most expensive watch of all time, a Frank Mahler model worth around $1.5 million. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Ronaldo owns more than 20 luxury cars, and he's very proud to showcase them too. He owns around $47 million worth of property, including his luxury villas in Turin, where he plays for Juventus, or his home in Madrid. The latest addition to the family is a villa in Costa del Sol, worth about $2.3 million, a modest figure in the grand scheme of things for Cristiano's budget. Many famous football superstars come from a background of extreme poverty, and they're desperate to reach the top. However, once they get there, these players often get carried away in spending all that cash that they could never have dreamt about. This leads to a ton of awful decisions, eventually leaving them with nothing to show for. There are exceptions to any case. Cristiano Ronaldo is spending the money that he can afford, and he managed to stay out of any addictions whatsoever. But many others, not so smart, or lucky, and they squandered away their life for a few years of enjoying and living it to the fullest. Whatever the case may be, they all have one thing in common: a crazy lifestyle.